And then 5. Okay. And we are going to go live. Yay.
Hey.
I love these calls. I'm going to make sure we share it in all the groups and everything too, because it only lets me go live on my regular Facebook for some reason.
Okay.
So we're going to just share. It's setting up the live stream. All right. I am so excited. We are back with another episode of Ask an Expert Friday. And I
Yay.
have the pleasure of introducing Lauren Power. And I'm going to let her share a little bit about herself, all of her experience. And I actually had my first session with her yesterday, and I have goosebumps while I'm telling you this. I literally have goosebumps. And this woman is incredible. I feel so much energy after our call yesterday. And I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for being a light in this community. Thank you for sharing your gifts with me. And I think a lot of people will want to reach out to you after this call. So I'm going to let you go ahead and share your story, and I'm going to make sure that we are live in all of our groups.
Okay. Well, it's so great to be here with you, Callie. And wow, that was a really great session yesterday.
It
Um,
was. It was. I feel like a light as a feather today, and I think that, it's interesting because a lot of people are not used to these types of modalities. So I love doing talks like this with different educators and different experts in different areas so people can understand that it's not just about, you know, eating your diet and making sure you exercise. There's so many other things that come into play when it comes to healing your body from the inside. So that's why I'm so grateful to have you on this call today and to share a little bit about yourself, and a little bit about how you came into using these modalities for yourself and working with clients as well. So I'm super excited for this conversation.
Yay. Well, I kind of fell into this line of work a little accidentally.
Yeah.
I grew up overseas actually, and when I moved back to Canada around 18, I had a lot of undernourishment issues and really felt crappy, dizzy, unsteady, low energy. And it really began sort of the beginning of a search for my own health. And of course, good supplementation, eating better food, all those kinds of things really helped. And so it kind of really got me onto the cellular nutrition sort of thing for many, many years. And only recently, maybe in the last 5 years, as I've reached the age where my body doesn't let me push like I did for so long. I have the blessing and the curse, like many of us business women, that we have this high capacity to do so many things, and we can do a lot. Except when our bodies start saying, no, you don't. We're done. You don't get to push me around anymore. And my particular journey came with having a pretty severe lower back disc issue that was unrelated to any specific event, which makes me in a very unusual category. And as the doctors were saying to me, this is the weirdest thing we've ever seen. We don't know why. I'm like, yeah, I kind of know why. It really was the culmination for me of decades of pushing past not listening to myself very well. And a lot of childhood stuff that just had been percolating, and now was the time. And, sometimes I think when we're at the point where our body, or we're starting to become aware that our body is needing some attention, is often when the body kind of goes, oh, okay, let's do this. Really, because the body's been like tense and holding on and trying to manage for so long. And that's really what happened to me. So I really had to learn very quickly how to slow down, because I couldn't stand. I laid flat for 3 months, couldn't bear my own weight, never mind move around. And I was convinced that as I did the emotional work, I would be fine, wouldn't need surgery, which would ended up being the case. Um, but then, like within the last couple of years, doing some additional sort of trauma recovery work, actually with our daughter, brought to light this whole modality of working in our energy field and
Right.
actually removing stress energetically, so that we don't even have to know what the stress is. We don't have to have it all figured out mentally and understand it in order to actually release it. So this has been a massive accelerator. All the modalities I've used in the past have worked really well, but they've been slow. And
Right.
so I'm really loving this type of work where we're actually able to go into the subconscious and use applied kinesiology, essentially muscle testing, and find out what the body needs specifically, and then get a bit of a recipe of how practically to support, my body right now in this season,
Right.
which changes, but also find where the stressors are that are fueling symptoms and actually removing them as well. So that's sort of
Right.
a double-barreled shotgun that actually
And
really is
right,
helpful.
yeah. And I'd like to just say something, okay? So a lot of people that are watching this call, you all know my story. First of all, dealing with a severe spinal injury. I was at the point where I was literally on the couch almost every day. I was unable to work. I
Mm,
literally was in line to book my spinal surgery. And, not only that, but you guys have also seen my fertility story, okay?
mm,
Now, whether you're a believer in natural medicine or energetics and all of those kind of things, it's really important for you to understand how to heal your body on a cellular level. It's not just like everything, it's not just your diet, it's not just the water you're drinking, it's also emotional causes, it's past trauma, because your body holds on to all of those things. Like I was taking a million products and I was still feeling so crappy because my body was unable to absorb those products. And I think it's so important that people understand and become self-aware of what it is that you can do, whichever modality you choose, but
mhm,
it is all linked together. And I think it's so important to have these conversations and educate people what you can do, and meeting amazing people like Lauren. I'm so grateful for Jillian for the introduction. We started our 6 week program started yesterday, and in one day, I already feel better. So let's talk a little bit about your modalities and what it is exactly that you do and how we did like, we can even use my example of what we did yesterday and kind of share a little bit about what we discovered with my own health. And I think it's good because I'm a walking testimony. I think I don't bring anybody to the table or any products to the table unless I've utilized it. And I think that's important when it comes to doing companies like this. We don't just talk about products, and we talk about education. We talk about why we believe that they'll work for you and the different modalities behind them as well. And I think it's so cool. Like I had such a great call with you yesterday. I feel so much better. I feel more grounded. I feel more centered. And I know that we have an action plan on how to improve my health, my energy, and just my overall being.
mm. Yeah, it was really, really lovely. One of the things that we're able to do, and so in an initial session like we had yesterday with Callie, we're able to actually test your body and find out what are the biggest stressors. And sometimes what's bothering me about my own body, like, oh, my elbow hurts or my shoulder sore or my tummy aches or whatever, isn't your body's priority. Meaning that your body's going to deal with that. You're going to feel better soon. But maybe there's something happening with the liver. Maybe there's something happening in the hormonal system that you wouldn't have any idea about. And it would take all your lifetime, maybe even for traditional medicine to find it, because it's not an obvious thing. So what we're able to do is kind of do an overall stress test of all the things that your body needs support in right now. What are the priorities? And with the goal that you're going to feel significantly better in 6 weeks. And then another, if we need to tweak the plan in the next 6 weeks. So it's kind of a double-edged thing as well, where we find out what the main stress is, what organs are stressed and we're measuring really an energy flow because we're not, diagnosing what's happening within the organ, but we can tell when the energy system isn't flowing well. And what happens when energy gets trapped is we have pain, we have inflammation, we have all the things. So we're kind of finding out sort of physically what your body's needing in the glands, in the hormones, in the body systems. But then we're also creating what I call a vitality plan, which is of all the things that Callie could do in the next 6 weeks personally to support herself, what are those things? And us women are really good at helping all the people and and helping ourselves. And so we hear all the things that, oh, I need to take that supplement. Oh, I need to exercise like that, or I need to do this. And I can hear myself as I say it in my body just go, oh, I'm exhausted already.
Right.
Because it worked for someone else, what they're telling me, but I don't know if it's going to work for me. And especially, I don't know if it's going to work for me right now. So we try this thing and we try this thing. And we're actually kind of in a lot of alarm in our body, searching for the thing that's going to help us. So what we're able to do is you can ask all the questions. Is this going to help me? Is this going to help me? And we can actually ask. But more importantly than that is we're creating what are the top three priorities. Is it about how you're sleeping? Is it about when you're sleeping? Is it about nutrition? Is it about how much rest you're getting and what is rest for you? Is it about spiritual nourishment? So we kind of go through a bunch of sort of checklists to see which one is your body's priority. And then that gives you kind of a homework or a take home, and just focus on these things and allow yourself to rest, knowing that you're doing the best thing you can do. And I think what I'm noticing happening in women's nervous systems is once you have a plan, then all that noise of, oh, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do this, actually just settles down, and you can be really confident that me actually, and actually one of the ones for Callie yesterday that was so funny was what equals rest for Callie, was what neither of us would have ever guessed.
Mhm.
And you feel free to share that part. What
Well, I actually I put my list up on my wall. So
yeah.
I'm gonna just actually get the list. So, some of the things that it talked about for me was focusing on you know, the rest. So for me, my body was asking me to listen to my scanner and listen to my tones and scan myself more often, which was really cool because, I usually I do my scan in the morning and I listen to my tones throughout the day, but it was actually telling me, my body was actually telling me that it wants me to listen to the tones more often. So instead of just one time a day, we've now increased it to 3 times a day. And it's interesting because I think the same thing kind of showed up for Jillian as well in the body system section. It's like our body is requesting us to use the frequencies in order to help us get things flowing and moving again. And, I love listening to my frequencies while I'm having my bath. So I've actually made that as part of my calendar to start doing that more often as well. And, just checking on myself. Like I scan in the morning, listen to the frequencies while I'm getting ready. When I'm having my lunch, listen to the frequencies again, and then at nighttime listen to the frequencies again, and that's actually what my body wanted, which is so cool.
Which was 10 minutes of listening to the music 3 times a day. So when rest came up as an area that Callie's body was like, I'd like more rest, but what is rest? And so asking even Callie what's restful for her, it wasn't even in any of those categories. So we
Yeah,
were
I would
able
have
to
think like
define.
going to the beach or going on a vacation.
Totally. Yeah, and it's really paradigm shifting because sometimes we have an idea. I've had other clients be like they want a 10-minute walk and they're not allowed to think of their list. They need to be present, notice the grass, notice the trees, like be present on the walk for 10 minutes, and that equaled rest for them. And even like say my dog, I muscle test my dog sometimes. And one of the things that was rest for the dog was I don't want to just come in from being outside and get a treat. I want to have to sit and do all my tricks. And that was restful for her nervous system because she was dealing with a lot of anxiety. So I use dogs for an example because I use this on the dogs a lot. But it is interesting that what we think in our mind, especially with really the programming or the way we've grown up, is do more and then crash on a holiday is kind of how we recover. And yet I notice a lot of the instructions that people's bodies want is super fine-tuned, easy things. Not it very rarely is the recipe that you take home more
Right,
work. It's almost
right,
always like, what? I don't have to do all that stuff I thought I had to
right.
do. Your body's like, that doesn't help me.
Yeah, like another thing, when it came to the habits, which was quite interesting as well, is every morning I used to listen to my mentor, Alina Grayson, and I used to listen to her video while I was getting ready, especially when I was going through the lowest times and going through almost like a mini depression after finding out about my fertility issues. And I used to listen to her every morning getting ready because it would get me up off the couch.
Mm.
And that was the other habit that it was asking me for more of was feeding my brain with Alina Grayson. So now I'm going to listen to her 3 times a week and go back and replay some of her old videos. But I'm also going to tag her in this post because I think that she'll be really grateful to know that my body's actually requesting me to do the mentorship and do the work with her too, which is quite cool.
Isn't that funny? And what was really fascinating when we were trying to figure out what was the habit that your body wanted to tweak, the first thing that came up was, oh, I need to not be on TikTok. I need to not be
Yeah,
watching YouTube.
scrolling Facebook.
It was the body was like, actually, no, we don't care about that. It came up that it was YouTube, but we were thinking like more YouTube, less YouTube. So we had to took a few questions to find out what it was about YouTube. And it turned out to be this particular thing you wanted to listen to again and you haven't done it in a while. So it's always fun because I don't have an idea what we're going to end up with.
Right.
Sometimes you always resonates. That's the thing that's so cool is even though you don't consciously come in going like, I'm probably going to want all this stuff, it always intuitively resonates. And you're like, of course, that's what I want. But you wouldn't automatically think that. So it's
Right.
very cool how it always aligns and feels authentic to yourself, which is really,
Yeah.
really cool.
And the one thing that when it comes to doing things like this and actually truly understanding your body, I mean, when you feed your body with the right things that it requires in order to for it to heal, it seems a lot easier and it happens a lot quicker.
So much.
And like I've been on this mission since 2021 to figure out what was wrong with my health. We figured out what was the cause, but now we have to figure out how do we get past that initial trauma and how do we start working towards with the body systems, with the diet, with everything else, balancing the hormones, your habits, and everything. It all goes together
Yeah.
because you can take you can take a detox product, you can take this, you can do that, you can start exercising, but if you're not in balance and in alignment with everything that your body requires, you're not going to heal proper. I don't feel like it all goes together hand in hand.
Yeah. It so much does. And the other part of what we did yesterday was we gave an overall, considering the last 6 weeks in Callie's life, what is the percentage of what we call life balance? And this is like measuring nutrition, sleep, like basically some of all those practical things. What's the percentage now? And if she goes away and does the things that we test up she needs to do, what will it jump to over? And it's always significant. And that's a really fun thing that practically where you're starting. We can measure when you come back in 6 weeks. Well, we'll see each other in that time, but we'll measure again in 6 weeks, and you always see an improvement. And so having tangible things like that is really important. And there's another young lady that I just heard this week. I started working with her in December. She's only 14, and the dear one, she's had such low energy. She said she feels like shaky legs and dizzy and just tired all the time. And so we did this for her, had made her a vitality plan right before Christmas, actually. And it was so sweet. Last week, I got a photograph from her mom showing me something that this young lady did. They had a little corner in their house that was hardly used. And with her own idea, she redecorated the space, set up her art stuff there, and has started painting again.
Oh
And
wow.
this is such a fun example of she didn't try to do that. She had the idea herself. So when the body starts having more vitality, starts feeling more at rest, receiving what it needs, and the dizziness has stopped. You can tell she's just a little brighter, and it's just that low feeling she couldn't figure out. I mean, they had been to every specialist, they'd been to done all the things, and her mom just was talking to a friend of mine and said, I think there's something else going on that maybe has some emotional stuff. And of course, my friend's like, oh, I know who you need to talk to. So anyway, super fun to see just an example that represents the ease that making these little tweaks has, that isn't. All of us are all about, well, I'll try harder. And this is all about the opposite. Don't try harder, just do
Yeah.
these specific things and keep it light and easy. And then
Right.
what happens? The body gets what it needs and
Yeah.
heals. Yeah.
Yeah. And I wanted to talk about something else that was quite interesting as well. We talked about the geopathic index.
Mm,
Now, I just recently got a grounding mat for my underneath my desk at my computer and also one for my bed. And I've noticed that I've been getting more restful sleep, so I don't wake up in as much pain. But you had did a different test that I've never heard of before, but it also depends on your geographic location and where you are. So can we talk a little bit about that as well? Because I think this was like the one of the coolest things. I was like, really? No way. So I'm actually doing stuff that's right by getting this grounding mat
Yeah.
at my desk, but I thought it was just so cool.
Yeah, it was so validating, right? To you, because we all are into our, we know stuff, but we don't, who do we ask? We just sort of go with what feels right. So this is so cool because it validates actually you knew and what you were solving was something that was really important. So what we did, I'll just explain sort of a little bit about geopathic stress, basically all across the globe. And just so you know, this is something in Europe is everyone talks about and knows about. It's a normal thing. Here in North America, this is in the woo-woo category, which is absolutely ridiculous because in Europe, PhDs do this work. They've been studying it since the 1850s. Every piece of property, if you move into a new house, you know what the geopathic index is of that house. Here, it's hardly ever talked about except for radon gas. And yet there's a lot going on in our homes. So basically what's happening is under the earth or under the ground where we are, there's different rocks, different minerals, and as water, like in the form of rainwater or underground rivers or whatever, as the water's passing over different stones or different minerals, energy is released. And sometimes that is really stressful on our body. Different types of minerals are actually less or more stressful. And so most often there are some really expensive instruments that are getting better at testing this, but the best way to test it is with someone like me that can muscle test and learn how to do that. In Europe, it's a normal thing. So what we did, one of the indexes when we were doing an overall stress index for Callie, one of the things that came up that her body wanted me to check was what is the geopathic stress index that she's been experiencing. And interestingly, the only place that her body wanted me to check was where she's sitting right now, where she works. And it came up as a -6. I'm going to give you some context. The best range for excellent geopathic energy for your body to be in health is between -2 and +2. Zero is kind of ideal, or anywhere around there. The anywhere you get above or below -10 is when you begin to have cellular damage happening. And that what that means is your body's just got this baseline stress that makes everything else harder. So you'll probably be more tired when you wake up. You may even develop various health conditions because your body is just using so much energy just for that, never mind all the other stressors in your life. So what was fascinating at the end of the closer to the end of the session, Callie's like, hey, I've got this grounding mat and I've had this grounding sheet. And so we went back and I'm like, okay, let's test where you are without the grounding mat. We didn't have to remove it. We just put that as our intention. Turns out where she's sitting is -18,
That's crazy.
which is far more disruptive on the body. -6 is, maybe a little bit. So we'll actually be working together to get that -6 where she's sitting right now to even lower. And that will be a pretty easy fix. But it's very fascinating to know that once you get that in range, there are some things to notice that we can actually do corrections on the body that will remove the impact on your body's systems, like do a correction so that we can remove all of the impact of stress, of geopathic stress from your whole lifetime. And so that's often a really important thing because here's what happens with the body. You get into better geopathic energy. This happens with a lot of my clients that, repair their home and now the geopathic stress index is where, it's healthy. And all of a sudden, I know one guy, like his ankle's just aching. Well, he has an old injury in his ankle. And as soon as the geopathic energy got better, the body's going to heal that area and there's some pain. So we can support that healing process as well. But one thing I want to mention, because it's really important, a lot of people are doing the grounding mats and grounding sheets. And there was a woman last week that when we tested, I'm like, take that freaking sheet off your bed. No grounding sheet for your bed. Because where she's plugging it into the ground wire of her home is plugged right into bad geopathic stress. So she's bringing all that stress from the ground and she's sleeping on it. So it's a
Wow.
And if you go buy a grounding, whatever, a mat or a sheet or something, be sure that your house isn't in an area where there's bad geo where your grounding mat is, or you're just bringing more stress to yourself. So they're great, but
Yeah,
you
that's
need to know some
interesting.
stuff. Yeah,
Because I seen a couple testimonials on the sheet that I bought, and then people said it didn't work for them or they had worse pain.
exactly.
So they could be in the wrong geographic index, a geopathic index for their home when they plugged it in and actually brought more pain to them, which is quite interesting. So we're not talking about EMF here. We're talking about something completely different. You can get EMF shields and all those kind of things. You can use the scanner to do your clearing for EMF, but this is something that's like literally where your house is built on,
Hmm.
which is quite interesting. I never even knew about that. And like you had said, other places in the world, they do that and know about that. So it's interesting how, you know, us Canadians and possibly America too are
Totally.
not aware of that, or maybe they just don't want us to know that. I don't know. It's interesting how when you're on this self-discovery of how to heal your body, when things like this show up, when amazing people like Lauren show up, it's not, I've been on this journey for a long time, but I knew that it wasn't just diet. It wasn't just drinking more water. It wasn't just getting my blood cells separated. I knew that there was more things to it because we are energetic beings as a whole, and if you have blockages, it's gonna deactivate all the work that you're doing if you're not actually in alignment and energy fields are flowing. Then you can take a million products and you're still going to feel horrible. Like it's all bringing your body back in balance, and which will also allow your system to absorb the correct nutrients that your body needs to absorb as well. And, even let's talk about a little bit about the essential oils as well, because I know there's a lot of essential oil people that are watching this call as well. So I think this is a quite cool, how my body was particularly drawn to a certain product.
Well, it's one of the tools we have in our toolkit. And sometimes the body wants essential oils. Sometimes a lot, actually more often I find people want something else called flower essences. But it's basically essential oils have a frequency and it's working in the limbic system of the brain. So what's so powerful is when we can muscle test what oils, if oils come up, how you want them. Do you want to just sniff them? Do you want them on your body? Do you want them in your biofield? And it was fascinating. Yeah, that it was actually one of the things right at the very end, that it was kind of a homework assignment or kind of an entrainment where we'd done some, actually after we did this plan together, we actually did a couple corrections to actually work in her energy system to do some corrections. And the body wanted an essential oil after that to help, we call it toning, but it's actually, we kind of created some new pathways, essentially, even in the neural pathways in the brain. And in order to strengthen them, the thing that her body wanted was oils, and it was lavender that you wanted.
Right.
So when I looked it up in my trusty little book to find out what emotions are released through lavender, it was like, well, then that lines up completely. So we have all these moments in these sessions where you're like, oh, that makes sense, and
Yeah.
it just validates who you are and the journey you're on.
Yeah, and it's interesting, I was looking at all the essential oils I had, and two of them had lavender in them. And I have this kit, and I hadn't used it in a while. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, so I'm gonna smell it, and I'm gonna put a few drops of it in my bath. And, I felt my body relax and just calm after that. I was listening to my frequencies, like, that was my homework assignment. It was listen to your frequencies, have your nice bath, lavender, and see, it's not complicated when you really actually hone into what your body needs. There was a few slight adjustments to the routine that I'm already doing. And it
Yeah.
wasn't like you got to go on the strict diet, you got to work out this amount of time. Like people get scared about things like that, you know? You know, when you really start to dial into what your body actually needs, you actually start to feel better just by doing those actions.
Yeah, and it's often less than we think. But the other thing that's really fascinating is because we're asking the body what it needs, it's always gentle. we've probably all done certain things, maybe cleanses, maybe we've gone to a healthcare provider and our body feels jarred. I've actually been in counseling sessions that have felt jarring to my system because it's like, oh, that was a lot. And because we, in those kind of ways, there isn't, muscle testing isn't a thing that's kind of normal. Um, it can be kind of disruptive to our system, even though what we're actually doing is good and helpful. So by asking the body, it's always gentle and it's always in the order and the pace that our body wants. And so we end up not re-alarming the nervous system. We're actually just doing as much as the body's able to do, and the body can't do any more today. We need to rest and recover and integrate that work. And then we do some more. So that gentleness is something I've grown to appreciate so, so much. And even in doing some very deep work that, can be resetting some trauma stuff in the brain, for instance, we're not doing it in a way that is ever re-traumatizing. So
Mhm.
nervous systems settle and get entrained in the new way of being, in a much more easy way and without as much effort or as much distress in the process.
Yeah.
So aspect I really, really appreciate too.
I was actually a little nervous coming into the call. I was like, oh no, is my whole life going to be disrupted after this? Like, and actually, I feel a more sense of calm. Like, I was like, okay, I can do these things. I scheduled I added a few things to my schedule to make sure that I follow what my body needs, what my body's asking for.
Mhm.
And, I had never even had heard of muscle testing until
Mhm.
we had met and Jillian told me about this. So I was like,
Mhm.
this is quite interesting that, you have this gift that you can share with our community. So, we can kind of pinpoint and assist all of our community and all of our members to learn a little bit more about their own body. And I think that's
Mhm.
really cool. Because, there's so much fluff out there when it comes to nutrition and carnivore diet and vegan and this and that and what kind of water you should drink and this and that and this and
Mhm.
products and products and products and products and that's the whole point of our network is education
Mhm.
and finding practitioners and modalities like yourself. So I'm so grateful to be on this journey with you and using my story as a testimonial as well
Yeah.
because some people are scared to really hone into what's the root cause of their problem.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I've had to really look internally into myself in the past year, past 2 years. I mean, when I was younger, I had a lot of bad habits and partied like a rock star. And, I know that I did damage to my body. I
Mhm.
know that.
Yeah.
So, it's not about doing damage that can't be undone. Some
Mhm.
things maybe, yes, but it's making small changes and really understanding how to work with your body on a cellular level. That's where you get the biggest breakthrough. I mean, I like to eat. So it's very rare that I watch my diet. I know things that my body doesn't like. So
Yeah.
I eat less of those. I know what my body needs now. So I have more of those. And if, I have a couple cups of coffee, I replace it with a couple cups of water, but that's what my body needs. So
Mhm.
it's really just about finding the balance that works for you, something that you're willing to commit for yourself if you're
Mhm.
willing to make the change. First of all, you have to be willing in order to make the change because it's so important that you have to let go of what happened in your past. You can't change it, but you have an opportunity to change your future and change the outcome of your health. And that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just life changing. And when you can do it in a way that resonates with your body, it's also really important to notice that some people's bodies, like you said, like you have to want to. And sometimes we want to a little bit, but we don't, I don't know if I want to go. That your body honors that because it actually puts you into stress to move faster than you want. So some people, honestly, it takes longer. But
Right.
that's if that's where the things are at and that's what's happening. There's often we start a little slower, but as the body gets more robust and has more capacity, it becomes obvious over time that it's like, oh my gosh, look how much your body was willing to do today. And Callie, you've obviously done a lot of other work. So your body is quite robust and was able to do a fair amount in the first session. Some people's body doesn't want to do that much, but because
Sometimes your mind will
everyone,
sabotage you too.
Right? Well, you're tired, right? Your body's like, I can only handle so much. So I love that honoring each person's process, and you shouldn't be like someone else. You should be yourself and take whatever steps your body needs that are gentle. And sometimes it's going to be you need to go for a massage, and then we'll muscle test which massage therapist. You might need to go to a chiropractor, but then you don't have to go test everything and spend all the money in all the ways. You actually know where to invest your funds. You
Right.
need this particular supplement. You need this particular thing. And it's almost always things, actually, hardly ever is it things that you don't have access to. It's already things that you already know about, or people you already know about, or that I know about. So it's super gentle and an easy sequence. So you can
Right.
come kind of be at ease that the body doesn't betray you. It actually can't. It's actually pretty cool.
Your
So
body knows what your body needs.
yeah,
That's the new motto.
it is. It's so lovely.
Awesome. Okay, so I want to wrap up the call, but if you could please just tell people the best way for them to get a hold of you. And then I'm also going to put all of your information in this chat and also tag you in the post so people can also reach out to you. But what's the best way for people to connect with you if they are interested in working with you and utilizing your modalities?
Yeah, thank you. You can certainly ask questions on this post for sure. If you've got a question, I'll come in and answer, anything you've got questions about, because you know how that happens. You would like, what about this one thing? Feel free to ask below. But my website is absolutely the best way, lauren-power.com. And just telling on myself, I've been off social media for a couple of years due to some own recovery work I've been doing, just where my system just needed a break. But so you won't find much on my social media, and what you do find will be what I've spent a lot of my life doing up until last couple of years is business coaching. So you'll see some of that. So don't be confused if you see that. And you certainly can get in touch with me on social, but just also saying I'm not on social very much, so I might not have a very quick response there. But if you go to my website and click through and want to talk to me there, I do better at responding in
Okay.
that area. For now, I will be getting on back on social soon, but that's
Yeah.
thank you.
Sometimes you just got to follow your body. Sometimes it wants you to be on social media, sometimes it doesn't. And I
Right?
totally
Yeah.
understand and respect that. I'm trying
Yeah.
to wean my way off of being on social media as much so I can focus more on my healing and my grounding as well. So
Oh, so good. Thank you so much, Callie.
awesome. Okay, well, have a great day. Thank you for joining us on Ask an Expert Friday. And I look forward to continuing this journey with you. I'm excited for our next appointment together next week. And, obviously, I will continue to share how it's been going for me and use my story to empower all of you to make the correct decision for you and your own health.
Yay. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Bye.
Yay.